Okay, questions. Who's got the first question for me? Just open questions like about your business, you thinking about hiring somebody, building a team, whatever.
To get the advertisers for the book?
Yeah. Is it okay? So the question is it easy to get advertisers for the book? Okay. Some people have. I'll be honest. Some people have had difficulty doing it. You know, I don't use myself as an example very much because most people think, oh, well, you're Knolly Williams. It's like I wasn't born Knolly Williams. Like I had to create all this stuff. You know, like, but yeah, most people find it very, very simple. If you go to, in fact, if you go to successwithlistings.com/case studies. Case-studies, it's a long URL, sorry. Successwithlistings.com/case studies. You'll see a lot of people in there. You can call them up or email them and talk to them. And they even give you a testimony about how easy it was for them to get their sponsors. Because I give you the template. It's a copy-paste. All you do is you copy-paste the email that you're going to send, and you just change it up a little bit. And what I like to do, if I'm going after a painter, I like to send it to 3 painters, and I like to CC all of them in the same, to where they see each other. And I'm like, the first one that says yes gets it. And so it creates a little friendly competition that way too. So that, yeah, it's I give you the call script, the email script, and everything to make it easy. What I say is, if you just try it out. I mean, it's a 30-day money-back guarantee, right? So try it out. If you can't, if you call people and you can't get them on board or you can't make it happen, we just give you your money back, right? I mean, I'm not going to risk a bad reputation. You know, people love us, right? And so we want to continue that. So it works. It works. So yeah, it's been easy for most people. Yeah, it's pretty easy. In fact, let me just share this story real quick, and then I'll get off that point. We were at a seminar in. Where were we at? My wife it was either Phoenix, it wasn't Phoenix, it was, anyway, one of these cities. It was, I think it was in Vegas. We were at a seminar, and we were talking and everything, and halfway through I'm talking about the book and how you can get it free. This guy just bolted out the room. I'm like, man, he must not have, did I offend him, or what did I say? Well, he comes back in the room 15 minutes later. He's like, done, I already called my people, and they already signed up, and here's your money. And then he paid. Back then we used to take, like a year ago, we would do credit cards at the event before we got technologically advanced, except the www, right? I don't know if y'all tried it. If you use www.knolly.com, it won't work. But if you use knolly.com, it works. We're fixing that, but that's the way it is now. So yeah, it's pretty easy. Next, somebody else.
Knolly, so when did you decide you need to hire your first assistant or your buyer's agent? At that point, when did you first feel like you needed that and you could afford it? Yeah,
so the question is, when did I hire my first agent, my first assistant, and when did I feel like, right, my first assistant, and when did I feel like I needed it? So I hired my first full-time, part-time, she's part-time assistant. All my assistants have always been part-time, by the way. I hired my first part-time assistant when I was 8 months in the business, okay? 8 months in the business. And the reason, and I always tell my students, you will know when you need an assistant. You will know. And I had this, it was overwhelmed. Okay, anybody ever felt overwhelmed? Now, sometimes you get overwhelmed and then you get underwhelmed. It's feast or famine for some of you guys. So you got a lot going on, and then you don't have much going on, right? So here's what I always say about this assistant thing. There's a lot of ways to do it. The first people that you ever hire are admin people. Okay, that's your first hire. You know, your second hire is a buyer agent. And then your third hire is listing agent. And then your other hires will be, it would be derivatives of this, okay? But just talking for where you guys are right now, and what I say by first hire, that doesn't mean that you hire an admin and then you hire a buyer agent. You might have 3 admins before you ever hire a buyer agent, because they're constantly taking stuff off your plate. Does that make sense? Here's the thing, though. In order to justify, and in my book, just so you guys know, in the book, I have a whole section on building your team, and I have the compensation, because a lot of people want to know, how do you pay them, you know? So I have 5 compensation models for your admin. It's chapter 20, your first hire, an administrative assistant, and I go through the 5 different compensation models, the 5 different options of how to pay those people. But what I would say, though, is if you don't have a steady pipeline, okay, that's the key to every one of y'all's business is a steady pipeline. Let me say it again. It's a steady pipeline. Okay? When I was in the music business, it took me 9 months to get a paycheck. So when we put an artist in the studio, it was 9 months before we got, received revenue, because we had to record the album, and then we had to do a lot of marketing. Just like a movie, you spend all your money on the front end, and then you have box office. But they might have started spending money on the movie a year ago, and then you try to make your money back. So in real estate, you must imagine my thrill when I got in, and I was like, I can get paid in like 3 months. Like if I'm working with, if I get a listing and it sells in 30 days and then I get paid in 30 days, wow. That, to me, that was like phenomenal. But what I also had to couple that with was a pipeline. So I knew that early on, and this was within 8 months in the business, I knew that I had to have 18 listings. That was my number. I always had to have 18 listings in order to always have closings, okay? ABC, always be closing. So in order to do that, I had to have a pipeline. Because if you have 3 listings come in, 3 listings sell, then you don't have anything for 3 months. That's what we call feast or famine. And when you're in feast or famine, it's hard to have somebody that relies on you for a paycheck, right? So what you've got to do there is you pay per deal, okay? PPD. I'm just going to, that's not a real thing, but sometimes I do that when I'm teaching. Just makes me look smart, right? A PPD. Knolly said we need PPD. I don't know what that is. But a pay per deal. You pay per deal. So you pay a person $250 to close your deals. Okay? Now, truthfully, when you're in feast or famine, you don't want to pay anybody nothing, because you want that $250 for yourself. But what's really happening is you're robbing yourself and you're robbing your family. Let me say it again. You're robbing yourself and you're robbing your family. You're robbing your family of the time that they could have with you. Okay, and you're robbing yourself of other production that you could be doing, of producing. And you're saying to yourself, I'm worth $12 an hour, or I'm worth $15 an hour, or whatever it is that you would pay. Okay, so I always recommend, and the pay per deal is going to look something like $250 to $295, somewhere maybe $350, depends. It's a transaction coordinator that just closes on your transactions per deal, okay? Now, at some point, though, you're going to get to the point where, like for me, it was when I had at least 10 listings all the time, I needed an assistant to help me. And my assistant did everything. Everything. Because I got really good at delegating. At first, you'll be very bad at delegating. Because it's like, do you need help, Knolly, putting that in MLS? Oh, no, nobody puts it in MLS the way I do. I'm real good at putting it in MLS. Well, can I create the flyer for you? Oh no, I'm the best at making flyers. Look how I do my flyer. And you'll get to the point though where you realize nobody cares. They just don't. They don't care that you did the flyer this way versus that way. It's got to look nice, right? But at the end of the day, creativity has many hats, and it doesn't matter if it's your sometimes it's just ego. Like I do it all. I'm the one-man show. So, but when you hire a person, when you get to the point where you say, I've got 4 hours a day of work, I actually have work, answer the phones and whatever else is going on, then you could say, okay, I'm going to pay that person $14 an hour, or whatever you decide to pay. I use my Outdesk. So I have 2 virtual assistants that live in the Philippines, and they work through my Outdesk for like $9 an hour or something like that. And I've had one guy for 4 years, and the other gal I've had for 3 years, or the other, maybe it's 4 and 5. Anyway, they're the first people I've ever hired, and they're still with me. Let me give you an example. My first assistant that I ever hired, she had and these are people I like to hire. Gary Keller. I don't know if y'all know this. I was somebody asked me about my real estate history. I started with RE/MAX. Within a few years, I became one of the top 20 RE/MAX agents in the state of Texas. Okay, big state. I was one of the top 20. I went to Keller Williams. I was recruited to Keller Williams by Gary Keller. Okay, they knew I was number 7 in the city. There was about 9,800 agents in the city of Austin. I was ranked number 7 by Austin Business Journal based on my production. I was number 7 out of 9,800. So when that happens, when you get those of you that have been in that place, top 10, top 20, you start getting some interesting type recruiting activities, such as Gary Keller wants to meet you. Cool. I've been using all this stuff for 5 years at RE/MAX. So I'd like to meet him because I like the book he wrote, right? So I was kind of that kind of thing. But I was intrigued, and I joined Keller Williams, spent 10 years at Keller Williams. Now I'm at EXP, been there 30 days, only 30 days, brand new to EXP. Absolutely incredible, love it. So that's kind of my trajectory in the real estate space. But the first person that I hired, and Gary used to tell me all the time, you don't teach this stuff, but I still do, was a person that was retired. I love retired people, okay? So this person that I hired, Barbara, was 62 years old when she started working for me. She just retired working for me, I think last year, maybe the year before. She was 75 or somebody. She's like, Knolly, I just don't feel like doing it. I was like, Barbara, it's okay, you can. So she stayed with me my whole career. I hired her 8 months in, and she was with me pretty much my career. My second person that I hired that person about a year after I hired Barbara. That was at first I hired Barbara to do admin, and then I hired Morris to do admin on the outside. So he would do like signs and lock boxes and just take care of my inventory, customer calls, stuff like that. He worked with me till he retired. Carolyn was my third assistant. She's still with me. Okay, so my people just don't leave. I don't know if that's good, or I don't know how to fire them or what, but we work well together. I make good hires from the beginning, and all the people that I've hired are still with me, if that makes sense, right? So as far as admin, except the ones that have kind of played out. And I did retire technically in 2015, and my definition of retirement is being able to do whatever you want to do whenever you want to do it. That's retirement for me. Some people's like, I'm gonna be on the beach and just watching movies. I can't do that. I like teaching classes. If you call me and you want to sell your house, I've capped every year since I've been retired in real estate. I've been retired 3 years. But I've capped every year. In other words, I've sold enough real estate to cap, and those of y'all that know what that is. And it's like people are like, well, aren't you still working? I'm like, yeah, I kind of am still working, but I don't do any advertising, no marketing. I'm not doing all the stuff I teach because I'm not trying to build a big business anymore. I've done that, and I've had a great time doing it, But now it's more of me paying it forward and sharing what I've learned with others. Another thing, just real quick, I'll say this real quick. There's another book. Oh, here we go. So this is other stuff that I love to do. So this is a little off topic. So I have a book called The Secret to Knowing God's Will for Your Life. As a Bible teacher, 30 years, this is what I like to teach, like how to know what God has put you on earth to do. I believe everybody has a specific purpose. Now, I also believe that through your real estate career, you can fulfill that purpose. A lot of people don't realize that. It's like, well, I was put on earth. No, it's not so specific that you were put on earth maybe to do a specific assignment. Maybe it is, okay? But real estate can actually facilitate the door for you to do that. A lot of people don't realize that. This is free also. Go to knolly.com, you can download it. The Little Book of Prayer, 101 Prayers to Pray When You Don't Know What to Say. People that are into prayer wrote that book. And then Discovering Your Divine Destiny. This is Juanita's copy. This is not even out yet, but it's 121 questions to ask yourself so you can discover what it is you're here for. What's your ultimate purpose? This is the kind of stuff I like to teach, right? And this is going to be also free download on knolly.com. So just going back to that, but even when you guys get to the point where you pay off everything and you're self-sufficient, you're still going to want to help people, right? You're still going to want to, and it's just you wake up in the morning and say, okay, Lord, what do you got for me today? He says, well, I want you to help this person sell their house. Well, I mean, you can look at what you do even right now as a ministry. You don't have to look at it as this hardcore job. I got to make this happen. Some of you, I'm going to say this, some of you are in feast or famine because you like the adrenaline rush of it, okay? It's an addiction. There's some people, not maybe you guys in here, but some people like that addiction. It's like, and I have family members this way, and I used to be exactly this way. Sometimes I'm still that way. But it's like you get all the way to the 11th hour, And then you make it happen. You get a deal, and then you can pay your mortgage, or you can do this or that. And so feast or famine for you has become a way of, it's psychologically being the hero. You don't have to live that way. There's another way to live. People have discovered it. I've discovered it, and many others have as well, where you can live in this life and do whatever you decide you want to do. You are not a slave or a victim to life circumstances. Does that make sense? These people, they had a question, but or I was answering their question. Anyway, you had a question.
I had a question, but I don't remember what it was.
See, that's the thing with me. I'm a runaway train.
I have one. Talk more on your...
Remember that question.
I'm just curious more about your brokerage. Did you ever have your own brokerage? Were you a managing broker?
That's a great question.
What made you decide to stay with a national or a franchise company? I'm with a private company. Just curious what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, and here's what I say. The question is, what made you decide to go with national brokerages versus starting your own? I've been a broker I got my broker's license 10 years ago. So I am a broker. I could start Knolly Realty, and I've been so tempted to do that multiple times. Okay? When I went to Keller Williams, here's what honestly happened. I met with Gary. We had a 30-minute meeting set up. An hour and a half later, because y'all know how I am, and we hit it off. Okay? An hour and a half later, we're still in the meeting. People were like, "Gary, you got other meetings?" He's like, "No." Yeah. So we hit it off, and he asked, and that's where I was. I was going to start Knolly Realty, which I still have the name Knolly Realty. And he said, "Knolly, what would happen to you if you?" He asked me. He said, "How many agents are you going to have?" I said, "I'm probably going to have about 20 agents, Knolly Realty, 20 agents." He said, "What would happen to you if half of your agents left? You built this thing to 20 agents, half of them left overnight, and then the half that left came back and took all your administrative staff." I was like, that would be pretty tough. That would be hard. He said, "Well, that's what happened to me." What happened to him and why he built Keller Williams the way he built it. He said, if you're going to start a brokerage, you need 100 or 150 agents. And I was like, no way, I'm going to have no 150, babysitting 150 people? No, I never do that. So that's what made me decide that I didn't want to go that route, okay? Because honestly, a lot of people that have brokerages, they're not making any money. The brokerage is making money, and but they got so many expenses that they're just not making money. I know people right now that are $100 million teams. I live better than they do. They're in debt. Anyway, I know personally right now, personal friends of mine that own market centers of Keller Williams, 3 market centers, own them, okay, or own majority of them, and they are in debt up to their eyeballs. They're not living life, right? So anyway, for me, it just wasn't. Now, that's the reason why I didn't start my own. Now, when EXP came along, I didn't know anything about EXP. I was like, people talking about EXP, man. Stop talking to me about that crap. I don't want to listen to that. So people have always been talking about me about EXP. I didn't want to know anything about it. I didn't care, because my whole thing was I'm a teacher, I'm a trainer, I'm a coach. I like doing what I do. So, but when my buddies, when they joined, and I'm not going to harp on EXP too much, but I'm just saying, you asked the question why. 7 months ago, they were like, they joined EXP, and I was like, cool, good for you, hooray, whatever. But then I started looking at them like, man, these guys do $100 million a year. They do 450 transactions a year, 40 deals a month. I've never done that kind of production, right? And they've been friends of mine. They've been over my house dozens of times. I mean, at least a half a dozen times, but I've run into them at conventions. They're really good friends over the last 10 years. We were at Keller Williams together. They were 2 of the top 100 Keller Williams agents in the world, okay? Out of 160,000, they were 2 of the top 100 in Gary's inner circle. They spent time on Gary Keller's ranch, private ranch, just them and Gary Keller on the ranch. That's these guys, right? So when they joined, I had to really kind of listen to a little bit and start paying attention. And then as I uncovered it, I said, this is insane. Nobody ever told me all this about it, and I was just blown away. So for me, it would make more sense for me to go through EXP and bring on 100 agents than to have my own brokerage and have 100 agents. Doesn't make any sense to do it that way. So or even if you want to have a brokerage with 10 or 20 agents, it's better to just go through EXP, for me, from what the research I did, and have 10 or 20 agents that way. And they're not even on your brokerage, they're just at EXP, but you're helping them to succeed. Does that make sense?
Yes.
To be successful.
So to get all these listings, how do you get that many listing appointments? Because right now I'm listing for people that I know
Uh-huh.
to get it out there and get it.
How do you get that? Like, how do you get that many listings?
Right. Or listing appointments to even get the chance to get the listings.
Yeah. And because a lot of you guys are seeing people doing this, they're getting all these listings, and you're like, what in the world are you doing? Like, what's going on here? Well, let me show you. So, what I've discovered, I was in Sacramento one time, and I started thinking, sometimes when you travel, one of the good things about traveling is it takes you out of your comfort zone, and you start having, not really premonitions, but you start having epiphanies. I call them epiphanies. And so one time I was in Sacramento, and I was in the shower, and I just had this epiphany, like this voice just said, where are you getting all your business? And I said, I don't know. I mean, I never really thought about it. I mean, I'm getting a lot of business, and I love it. I always ask people this question, and we'll get back. I always ask them, how'd you hear about me? Like I asked Juanita this morning. You know what most people say? Exactly what she said. I don't know. I just know you're everywhere. I just know, I don't remember how I heard about you, right? Which is cool. That means you're doing something right with your thing, with you become a celebrity, your marketing. But I always want to know, like when you go into a listing, you always want to know how they heard about you. Why? What's the number one reason? So you can keep doing it. Most people say that, and that is a big reason. But the second big reason is so you can know what your job is going to be. Yeah, not only know your numbers, but that's a big one. That's a good one. But another, so okay, that's working. I'm going to keep doing that. But also, when I go to, it's Christy. I go to Christy. How'd you hear about me?
A friend.
A friend. Okay. You know what she just told me? I don't have to do any work. Her friend referred me. So her answer tells me how much work I'm going to have to do at the listing appointment. Which friend was it, Christy? And then she tells me her friend, I love her. Don't you love her too? Then we just start talking about her friend for 15 minutes. We don't even have to talk about her house. She's already going to list with me. Her friend told her to list with me. Right. It's a done deal. Now, she said, well, I was driving by and saw your sign in the yard. I got some work to do. Tells me how much work I have to do at the appointment, right? Now, where do we get these? So I started thinking about it. I said, if I were to, I just started thinking about it. And as I started thinking, and you know what I actually did? I reverse engineered it. I looked at all the listings. Like the last year that I was unretired, okay, I did 153 deals. Not all listings, but most of them were. Over 120 of them were listings. I did 153 closings, okay, that year. So I just went back and looked at every closing that I had for like so many years, and I just put a little color code on where they came from. Okay, and they fell into 3 buckets. Okay, this is what I teach too. 3 buckets. That's a bucket, by the way. That's a bucket. Okay, so I call this the 3 buckets. Now, one of the things that I like so much about my training, have you ever heard a trainer say that? I like so much about, but I like to teach stuff that's evergreen. Now, I love going to training that's the latest. Like I like learning about Facebook ads, and I love learning about funnels and all that stuff. I do all that stuff. But I don't teach that because I teach it privately to people, and I do teach it some on YouTube, but that's not evergreen. Evergreen is something that you can use today, 5 years from now, or 20 years from now. And there are evergreen things. I don't know if y'all know that, but like a book by Al Reed's, The 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing, evergreen, okay? Think and Grow Rich, evergreen, okay? The psychology or anyway, there's a lot of evergreen books out there, a lot of evergreen training. This is evergreen. So bucket number 1 is your sphere of influence, okay? According to the National Association of Realtors, 70% of your business is going to come from people that you know you, like you, and trust you already. People that are your friends, they're just people that know of you somehow. They're in your sphere of influence. So that's 70% of your business. The second bucket, these are your niche and your farm. Okay? The other 30% is going to come from this. So your niche, what I always tell people is, like for example, a cardiologist makes a lot more money than a general practitioner, yet they work less. They work about 30% less hours. But they're more in demand for the people that need them. You know that only 6% of Americans have heart disease. Did you know that? Only 6%. So for 94% of Americans, cardiologists are completely irrelevant. Completely. They don't need them. They won't ever look them up or any. But for the 6% that need them, they're willing to spend big bucks, and it's a big enough market for them to raise their rates. A doctor, like a doctor makes about 150 to 160, okay? A general practitioner, even 10 years in the business, that's what they make. Yeah, a year, okay? A general practitioner. Now, a cardiologist can make 300 plus, okay? 250 to 300 for doing less work, okay? Because they have a niche business. When you have a niche, people seek you out. You're the person, like when we were doing short sales, that was our niche, and every single one of our listings that we ever took, we never physically went out to the house before we had the listing paperwork. We would not go out to the house until we had the listing. Does that make sense? I mean, a lot of people are like, what is that? And I just calculated like the last 300 deals that we did when we were in that space, we never went to see the house until we had a listing agreement. Once we had the listing agreement, we would go see the house. But people were calling us because we were the experts doing that. Does that make sense? It's a niche. So you can do, a niche can be, I mean, I have a whole chapter that talks about niche businesses, if you want to read about that. And then your farm is an area that you've designated, I'm going to serve this area. This is going to be my area. Now, the way you really do that layers on top of all this is just where these leads are coming from, right? So when you, remember that there's 3 different kinds of what we call traffic, or 3 lead sources, 3 different kinds of leads. There's cold, there's warm, and there's hot, okay? The hot ones are the ones that are going to list with you. That's it. They're not going anywhere else. Warm is like they're ready to list their house, and they probably will go with you, but they might want to interview someone. Cold is like people that you don't know if they want to sell, buy. It's just unknown. Most realtors spend their money on cold traffic or warm traffic, right? And they just see, here's the thing. When you have a brokerage, for example, you've got 2 things at play. You've got recruiting, you got to bring people in, and retention, okay? Most people completely drop the ball when it comes to retention, and they only focus on recruiting. And that's why a lot of these brokerages do a piss poor job of retaining the people that they bring on, okay? Doesn't matter what brokerage it is. They bring a whole bunch of bodies in, and they just look at it as a numbers game. So many will stick. I don't see it that way. I see that, for me, retention is as important or more important, like retaining a current client is more important than generating a new one. So you can actually work your client base, if you really worked it to the level that you should, to where you can be generating a lot more business, even from 100 people that you contact on a regular basis, and they commit to you to give you 1 or 2 leads a year. 1 or 2 leads a year, that's 100 to 200 referrals that you should be getting. So there's ways to work this, and I have 5 chapters. 5 chapters in here. Again, you download it for free. 5 chapters where I talk nothing about this question that you asked me, okay? But these are going to be the 3 buckets where they come from. And one other thing I'm going to wrap a bow on it about, somebody else had a question too, right? That you had a question? No, it was your question. So I'm going to put a bow on it with this. Things that happen in the physical realm manifest themselves first in the spiritual realm, okay? The Homo sapien, the human being, has 4 bodies. This is very important for you guys to understand this, okay? You have 4 bodies. You have a physical body, which gets most of the recognition, okay? You have a spiritual body. That's the true you. Like Wayne Dyer said, the body is no more than a garage where you temporarily park your soul. That's all the body is, okay? So you have a physical body, you have a spiritual body, that's the real you. You have a mental body, okay? That's this right here. A lot of people live in their head. And then you also have an emotional body, okay? There's a book called The Heart Math Method, where the guy basically did research around the heart. Jesus talked a lot about the heart. Like, if you do this in your heart, or if you think this in your heart, and you do this in your heart. Well, the heart is more than an organ. Scientists have proven this. So out of the heart, with certain spectrometers, they can see that it radiates about an 8-foot field from the heart. You can take a camera on any of you And you'll see this field, an aura that comes out, it radiates. Now, we don't understand it. We don't know enough about it. Maybe in years we'll study and know more about this. But like if I come in your space, you'll begin to feel me when I get to a certain distance. You will actually feel me. Some people feel uncomfortable when they're too close to other people. Some people, when they're close to some people, they feel great, right? It's about, and some people walk in the room, they have a certain energy. We all have different energy. So here's the thing. When you're going after listings, but you're only putting your mental body at work in this, you're not really giving it the full go. Does that make sense? That's the reason why I would do things that I never teach. In fact, I just talked about this last week on a podcast with somebody who had me on. I just happened to talk about it because it slipped. But I would go through neighborhoods. People were like, man, you're like a listing magnet. I would manifest listings to me. And what I would do is I would drive through neighborhoods. I would not even door knock because I'm scared to death to door knock. It's just in my personality profile, a high D can door knock. I don't have that, what they have. My wife could do it all day, but I just can't. So I would actually walk through or drive through, and I would just claim the neighborhood in the spirit realm. This sounds weird to a lot of people, but that's what I would do. And then all of a sudden, it would just start. See, here's the thing: when you start learning things like the power of your subconscious mind by Dr. Joseph Murphy, okay, or Letting Go by Dr. David Hawkins. When you start reading this kind of material, or Audible, because all those books on Audible, when you start getting them on Audible, you start to open your mind to other possibilities of how these things, how you attract what you want. The last thing I'm going to say about this is this right here. That, see, and a lot of you, if it's the difference between effort and ease. Effort and ease. Have you ever noticed that some people live a very effortless life and things just kind of happen for them, right? It's because they have other departments turned on that you may not have to full capacity. Does that make sense? Yeah. So you can, and some of this may not make sense to you guys at all. I've been studying this stuff for years, so I just say it, right? And you're like, it's kind of weird. But truthfully, the Homo sapien race is a weird race. We're very strange. We've discovered, this is true, just Google it. We've discovered that the Homo sapien has 3 brains. Okay? We have 3 brains. We actually have a brain in our gut. It's true. 90% of the serotonin that the Homo sapien has is created right here. 90% of it, and other chemicals and things that are created right here. They say that the intelligence of the gut is about that of a dog, a canine, okay? Which they're pretty smart. You ever had one? They're pretty good, right? And they're wonderful, right? So there's a brain's been discovered that's right here. They're still trying to figure out how it works. There's actually a brain in the heart that they've discovered. The heart math method, decades of research around that. We have a brain here as well, so we have 3 brains. Okay, men have 4, but that's another topic. We won't get into that. So there's things that you can actually do, and by the way, these principles, God has put certain principles in this earth that we have yet to discover. We don't really know how they work, these mechanisms. But what I will say is, they're working. The people that are doing this and doing all this, whether they know about these rules or not, they're working them. Like I didn't know any of this stuff existed, but I just knew that I wanted a lot of listings. I said I want you know what I actually did the first year I was in business? I got on eBay. This is God's honest truth. My wife will tell you. I got on eBay and I ordered a bunch of Monopoly sets. Okay, a bunch of Monopoly sets. This stuff I don't even teach, but since you asked the question, I got a bunch of Monopoly sets. And what I did was I threw away everything except the houses in them. I said I want to do 100 deals. I want to do 30 big deals, and I want to do 70 little, regular size. So I got a board in my office, and I set up those houses, physical houses, and I put on one side of it, this is my goal. So I had 70 greenhouses, and then I had the hotels I think are red, and so I had 30 of them. And then every time I would get one, I'd move it over. Close one, closings, not listings, closings, right? And so I was I didn't know I was doing that. But this is a real science that we're doing, that we're creating in reality. It's the same thing that God did. When we say, well, what God was, in the beginning, God, and He spoke, but a lot of times people think that He spoke something out of nothing. No. He spoke, see, God is everything, so He spoke something out of everything. What came out was from within, right? As is within, so was without. We haven't understood, and that's why Jesus had a hard time explaining these concepts to us is we have not understood or unlocked the full potential that we have within us. The last thing I'm going to say on that was what I was getting to, and that's that imagine this is everything that's going on in your world, okay? Now, this is what you can see. It's like a radar. That's a radar, okay? And this is all you can see is that 1 inch square. But in the spirit realm, there's all this other stuff, like there's listings that are coming to you right now. But then you know what the biggest thing that deters those are 2 things. Number 1's fear, and number 2 is doubt. Because the scripture says, if the person begins to fear, let not that person think that they're going to have anything. Like you just wiped out everything so you might actually have 5 listings coming to you right now, but then you start worrying. Matthew 6, do not worry. Okay, you start worrying like, is it going to happen? I don't believe it. And then you know what happens? They start going back away from you. Somebody else gets the listing, or they list. I just had this happen 3 weeks ago to me. Man, I was getting cocky, arrogant. I was getting a lot of people bringing them to EXP. I was like, and I started getting into ego. And it was fun being an ego sometimes because you're like, oh yeah, we got this going, you know. And I lost three people, and I was like, what's going on here? Something's not right. The energy shifted, and I just got back right, and things started happening again. Does it make sense? So I don't want to freak you guys out too much, but I'm just saying that what you can see that's going on in your world, the best way for you to read your life is backward. When you look at your life backward, doesn't it make more sense? Like, that's why this stuff happened. That's why I lost my house. That's why I had to file bankruptcy. That's why I lost everything. You see what I'm saying? And but at the time, is it fun? No, right? But just realize that these things are working together for your good, but you got to maintain the right attitude around it, okay? I promise I won't get that long-winded on the next question, but that's a great question.
Your illustration just reminded me of something. My husband and I used to sell Kirby vacuum cleaners.
Yeah, Kirby vacuums. Anybody?
Today, so
Kirby vacuum.
when business was good, we had lots of it. When business wasn't good, we couldn't sell a vacuum cleaner.
Right. That's a good point. Yeah. And the thing is, my wife bought a Kirby vacuum and she didn't even have carpet. That's how good Kirby sells. They're just good salespeople. He was like, look, he was like, oh, it works on your curtains too. Okay, I'll take one.
That is funny.
Yeah. Okay. I've got time for a few more questions. Any other? Have I helped you guys? Has this been very helpful? Okay.
Oh, would you repeat those authors? Because I only got one of them.
Yeah, I actually have. What I'll do, I've got this. I didn't bring many of these, but I'll pass this around. This is I have a list.
Like a reading list?
My top 20 books of recommended books, and you guys can take a photo of that page because I didn't bring extras of this, but.
On your website? Your top 20?
Yeah, actually it is.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, everything's on my, you just download it. Like, that's a good point. Okay. Yeah, you can just go and do it that way. So my top 20 books, and if you don't find it, just email me and I'll send you the link to it or whatever, easy to find.
Can a niche be speaking a second language?
Yes, yeah. Can a niche be, or a niche, can that be a second language? Of course, yeah. Homes on golf course communities, it could be lakefront properties. Now, by the way, when you have a niche, that doesn't have to be everything you do. It can be a division of your business. So we have, and what I would do if you have a second language, whether it be Italian, Spanish, whatever it is, hey, you know what? I think our Spanish division can help with that. You know, you start thinking that way, right? You know what? We have a Spanish division as well. You know, doesn't that sound better? It's really just you. I mean, you've got 2 different divisions, but you can have more than one division, can't you? And you're just the only person that runs all of them. Nobody says you can't do that. So I've got a buddy of mine, he owns oneacreplus.com. Oneacreplus.com. What does he specialize in? Selling homes on 1 or more acres. So when he goes to a person and says, hey, I own oneacreplus.com, can he sell a house better than you can on an acre or more? No, but they think he can because he owns oneacreplus.com. Oh, well, I have another friends of ours, Deidre, they own The Atlanta Church Ladies, or AtlantaChurchLady.com. What do they specialize in selling? Churches. Did you know there's agents that they sell churches? I mean, niches, I've seen so many, it's crazy. I list a bunch of them in the book, but that's a great question. You can definitely have a niche of a second language. Don't give up what you're already doing to do a niche, but I'm saying you can definitely do that for sure. Any other questions? Are y'all ready for me to go home? I heard there's a storm coming in. So we got to get over to Denver. Is it going to be bad? Like, what kind of storms y'all have? Like, tumbleweeds blow, like in Texas? It's like, you got a question?
What's the best way to get yourself out there, like on the internet?
Oh, that's a great question. What's the best way to get out there on the internet? The first thing you want to do is make a determination to get started. I am going to do this. I will do this. Convince yourself. And then just pick your avenue. One avenue is what I like is YouTube. So I follow this guy named James Wedmore, Wedmore. He has a lot of free videos online. There's a bunch of them now, but he taught me how to get on YouTube. I was scared to death. I mean, I tell you, and I was so stiff, like I was real rigid, like, and I thought you had to wear a tie and all. And my earlier videos, it's a joke. But now it's like I don't care. I'm letting ego go out the window. Most of us don't move forward because we're afraid of how we come across or how we look. And so I just did a video, which I'm going to put on YouTube in a little while, from this guy that owns videoadbuilder.com, I think, or Video Ad Bootcamp, videoadbootcamp.com. Okay, videoadbootcamp.com. Kevin Anson's his name. He's a friend of mine, and he just started that. And his advice is just get started. Like, do videos that you never intend to publish. Like, to me, YouTube's the best place. YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world, behind Google. So start on YouTube. Some people want to start on Instagram. Some people want to start on Facebook. It's up to you. Pick your platform, and then just do video that you never intend to show anybody. You know what I mean? And then you get more comfortable being on camera and doing that. But there's no matter how bad you are, how much you suck, there's something to be said about being consistent with being in front of people.
For how long has to be the video? The first
Usually they say for a YouTube video, I'm going to give you two answers. The first answer that most people say is in between 3 to 7 minutes. 3 to 7 minutes. And usually a YouTube video will have a bumper and an outro. So be, hey, Knolly Williams here with such and such, and in this video I want to show you 3 tips to get more listings. Stay tuned. And then it goes into the little bumper, and then I teach whatever. Hey, Knolly Williams here again. I hope you like this video about 3 tips on how to get more listings. By the way, and you go into that. So it's you start with there's a formula to it. And I guarantee you, if you Google it, you find a lot of information on how to do this. I teach some of it, but I don't teach as much of the video stuff. Right here, we got some of the best video people in your city right here. Give him a high five, brother. What's up? Video in the house. So make sure you get his card, because he'll help you feel more comfortable on video until you feel like doing it on your own. Even though I do I just use my smartphone, when I do video. But when it comes to things like this, I hire help. I get help when I need it. Makes sense. So, sure.
When you work with buyers, do you always have a buyer's agency agreement?
Yes. Oh, okay. It's a good question. No. When I work with buyers, do I always have a buyer agency agreement before I start working with them? The broker answer is yes, you should do that. The Knolly answer is I don't always do it. I just like being around people. I don't like paperwork. I don't like contracts. Now I realize that there's a place for having it in writing. God didn't just tell us stuff; He put it in writing. It's a book, the Bible, right? So He didn't just say, hey, by the way, I'm going to do, He put it in writing. So there is something to be said about putting it in writing. My personality profile, I'm usually pretty good at getting people to know, like, and trust me. And so they just feel comfortable working with me. They know that I'm there to educate them. I'm not going to harm them. Once your client knows that you're there not to harm them, but to be open, honest, and ethical, and to look out for their best interest, they're gonna be loyal. But usually, if I'm trying to get a buyer rep agreement up front, I just say, look, it's an exchange of loyalty. I'm going to be loyal to you in exchange for you being loyal to me. And in order to do that, here's the form that we use, and then I have them sign it. Especially if I think they're weaselly or squirrely. There's some, that one that in your gut, you're like, don't work with that person, and you do it anyway. You got to listen more. But yeah, sometimes I do work with, but what I always do, I mean, obviously when you draw up the offer, you want to include it in at that time, but it's always best to have it beforehand if you can, because I've been burned. Anybody been burned? Yeah, I've been burned. Yeah. And if they won't sign it up front, it is a sign that there's something, going on there. I mean, they're not that there is something, that it's just a sign for you to question what there might be something else going on. I think we have time for one more question. Any other? Do y'all feel like y'all got what you came for? You got your money's worth? Okay. Continue if you took go online, get my top. A lot of you guys don't like to read, but get my top 20 books, because I tell people, see, when I was in 5th grade, and I don't say this to brag because it has nothing to do with me. I can't take any credit for it. When I was in 5th grade, I was reading on a second-year college level. 5th grade, I was a sophomore college reader. I love to read. So I just have this disease called readology. I'm reading 4 or 5 books at a time, all the time. And of my top 20 books, only 2 of them are in the real estate field, okay? The other, I don't really read much real estate stuff, because to be successful in this business, you don't really have to learn that much about real estate. It's God's honest truth. You just have to learn about human behavior, human nature, psychology, understanding the Homo sapien, understanding success, period. How do you manifest success? There's thousands of ways to do it. Another agent would teach you a different way than what I know, but they're still successful. Doesn't matter. Like some people just teach door knocking. And like, for example, Kenny Klaus, you know how he's successful and doing hundreds of millions of dollars? He was a FedEx driver. And when he got into real estate, he said, well, when I was in FedEx, I just went to certain neighborhoods. I knew all the dogs, and I knew all the people, I knew who was home and who wasn't. So he just started knocking doors. And he became hundreds of millions in real estate. Now he's got multiple businesses and big teams and all kinds of stuff. I wouldn't do that, but that's how he did it. See what I'm saying? And so what I teach people is drink from many fountains. I don't have all the truth, but there's a bigger picture to discover than just, okay, how do I sell a whole bunch? Because you can sell a whole bunch of real estate and still not be successful, period. Tony Robbins teaches this. You can do 100, there's people do 100, 200, 300, 400 deals a year, and they're not successful people. They got failed marriages, their health is bad, poor. See, if you have failed health and a great business, what is that? It's still not what it should be. It's not optimal. Make sense? Sure.
What do you look for in a buyer's agent?
What do I look for in a buyer's agent? Now, I do have a whole chapter about hiring a good buyer agent, but you really, for the profile of a good buyer agent, you're probably going to want and this gets into disc profiling, a CSI or probably an ISC. Honestly, that's my profile. I'm a great buyer specialist, a person that's really good with people, but also good with the information, like retains the information, and is very patient. They have to be extremely patient to work with buyers that way. And of course, honest and trustworthy. High Ds, to me, don't make great buyer agents. They make good listing specialists. But they can do it with some adaptation, if you know what I mean. But typically, it's going to be that person that, most of the Ds are going to go more for the listing side of it, You also want to hire people that you don't believe will compete with you, because you can actually be hiring the competition. It's one of those, it's a double-edged sword, because you want them to know everything you know, but if you most people hire exactly what they are. Wrong. I'm going to hire somebody just like me. Now we got 2 people not getting anything done. You hire the opposite of you. So if you're a great listing specialist, you hire the opposite. That's going to be a good buyer agent. If you're a great buyer agent, you hire a listing specialist. I don't know if you guys know it, but lead buyer guys like Sean Kokoska, he did 100 buyers a year, and he ran one of the biggest teams that I know of, and with buyers, but he hired listing agents. See what I mean? And that's what you can do. It's a reverse of what we are talking about, but there's all kinds of ways to do this. Okay, so I always want to finish with let's look at what we learned. Okay, why listings are the best opportunity in real estate. We talked about that. Why you should transition your core business to listings. Thank you, Raul. Appreciate that. How to win the listing before you ever meet with the seller. We talked about that. How to earn more money and work less, and how to get all the success tools that I use in my business to help sellers believe in you for free. That's what we cover today. Good job?
Yep.
All right.
Great job.
Remember, get your free copy of Success with Listings. There's only so much I can share with you in 3 hours, but that's the rest of the story. You got my business card. Don't forget, you can get that puppy right there by going to the place that we talked about earlier. And I'm Knolly Williams. I've had a great time. I love you guys. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for letting me serve.